introvert is not a get out of jail free card to avoid hearing your voice, nor is it just a more academic sounding vocabulary word as a synonym for shy. They're not the same thing. To your point, introversion means a lot of things. It may or may not mean shy. It may or may not mean that you love parties, but it really is really about where you get energy and what expends energy for you and how you process your information of sorts.
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast Dom Brightman. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. Today's episode is sponsored by book number 2 from Dominic Dom Brightman, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. It is the field guide to help unleash the elite performer that is inside of you. Cop it today on Amazon.com or heading over to dombrightman.com and snag it in book, ebook, and audio book, so that way you can take it on the go and get yourself on the go to your northbound success. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North Podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today, courtesy of one fabulous website known as podcastguest.com, another wonderful site where, if you want, you can stick up a one-pager of all your freaking accomplishments, and podcast hosts get to reach out to you, or vice versa. If you're a host, you can submit your wonderful podcast to a list, and your podcast will be listed in thousands upon thousands of inboxes. And we got one heck of a treat. We found a needle in the haystack, a diamond in the rough. We found platinum in the land of gold, folks, because we got one heck of a super special, awesome human for you today, my friends, because we got a best-selling bookcaster, y'all. That's right indeed, because not only today's guest put pen to paper to meet the requirement of the show, she's also a fellow podcast host, and she's also a wonderful mom, as well as a lovely wife, TEDx speaker, executive coach, trainer, and a leadership, communication, and influence experts. Let's give it up for the likable and sensational Dr. Laura Sicola. How you doing today, Dr. Laura?
Oh my goodness, Dom, what a great introduction. I got to work hard to live up to that one now. Let's have some fun.
Woohoo! That's right indeed. Don't worry, you don't have to work as hard as a marshmallow or an old shoe. It's nice.
I've never heard that standard for hard work before. The old shoe, yes. Marshmallow, that's a new one. I like it. It's sweet.
Heck yeah, that's right indeed. That pun just popped out the mouth. That wasn't even intended, but I guess with me, folks, you just say, nope, you're lying. You know all your puns are intended. I'm like, oh well. But it ain't about puns. It's about the lovely Laura herself. So my goodness, as with all introductions, I'm pretty sure there are things I may have missed. So mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about you?
Oh, I am very much in the accidental entrepreneur space. I am a recovering academic, as it were. As you mentioned, the doctor piece, I started in grad school with the intention of going the faculty route, being a professor, and taught at the university for a little while, and then realized that the publish or perish lifestyle was not one that was meant for me. And through a couple of serendipitous conversations, found myself with a couple of consulting opportunities for some companies that I had certainly heard of, Fortune 50 banks and tech companies and things, very much accidentally. And I went, this is kind of fun and I like it. So I've started heading in that direction. And lo and behold, 15 years later, I'm still running the business and growing and writing books and hosting podcasts and all the sorts of other great stuff, but was not what did they say? If you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. Well, I had plans and they were not this, but boy, my plans were not nearly as much fun as where I am right now.
There you go. So I'm guessing you always wanted to have the apple on your desk from the kids at the age of 13.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that example, because in my very former life, right out of college, I was a public school teacher. I taught elementary school for a few years. Then I taught high school for a few years. Then I went to university and taught college. And now I teach executives, so to speak, in the training and coaching space. So I figure I just have to keep teaching older students so I stay looking younger. It's the only method I can figure out.
Don't worry, you're off the market for a reason. You look freaking great. And you actually spent time in Japan too, right?
3 years. Yes. It was amazing experience.
Ah, there you go. So what's your favorite karaoke song?
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, let's see. What were some of the fun ones over there? I was surprised at how much the Japanese traditional karaoke houses had from Elvis and the Beatles and the Carpenters and all sorts of real classic songs by and oldies by our standards. Of course, they've got new stuff too, but I had to brush up on Beatles and those kinds of things, which I never would have done here. Here, if you're gonna live in Japan for a few years, you do need to get over your karaoke phobias. If you think you have one, nobody cares if you can sing. They just want to know that you're gonna put up and not shut up. So grab a beer in one hand, grab a mic in the other, and just be prepared to not take yourself too seriously and have some fun. It's a lot of fun that way.
Ah, so she keeps the raid can at bay. She's a Beatles fan, at least in Japan.
Carpenters were a lot of fun, and some. I'm trying to think if you remember the song. Here's a little throwback, not quite that far in the early '90s. Black Velvet by Alana Miles. Don't know if you know that one, but that's a great karaoke piece, as was Fame by Irene Cara. That's another fun one to do in karaoke that everybody just gets into.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So what does your time in Japan teach you about learning?
Oh, so many things. I lived there twice. The first time was my junior year in college. I spent the year abroad and interning with a then what was Bear Stearns doing stocks and bonds and all that kind of fun stuff. It was a foray into the trading world and a really fast lesson in what I did not want to do for the rest of my life. So, very valuable lessons to learn early and fast. Let me tell you that. But teaching and learning, there is a huge difference between learning a foreign language, like teaching English or teaching Japanese, and learning in a language. So, learning math, learning statistics, learning history, learning economics through a language that you are not fully proficient in. And of course, then learning a new job, learning a new culture, learning to integrate into your company's corporate fabric and social network, as it were, when it's not your native language, when it's not your native culture. It's incredibly stressful and takes a lot more mental juice than most people give credit for. So for anybody out there who has coworkers or employees or colleagues who are working with you, but in their second or third language or culture, even if they're super duper fluent and they seem like they have no trouble, give them a little explicit credit, because I guarantee it takes their brains a lot more conscious, sustained effort to be able to disengage with you than it takes you to engage with them. And just acknowledge that, because I guarantee they never speak about it, but boy, will they appreciate the acknowledgement.
Ah, yeah, that's right indeed. You're so darn right. Heck, that actually reminds me of one of our past guests, Adri Kaiser, and she was from Venezuela, and she talked about her time coming to America. I'm not sure if she started and stayed in Texas or what, but they kept on calling her a stupid immigrant because she didn't know English
Ugh,
at the time and wasn't very good at it. But like, you're so right, because the thing is, with the second language, you gotta take what you hear, see, and read, and then translate in your mother tongue, and then spit it out in the language that's in the country that you're in. So it's like that's highly difficult, especially imagine being a student there, no less, too. It's like you have to basically translate your homework, if that's still a thing
yeah,
overseas. I hope it is, and
yeah,
basically have to do it in their language. So yeah, it takes a lot of work. Like that's not being stupid. That's actually a higher grade of thinking than your average human, especially Americans. Like, oh yeah, we speak American English, baby.
yeah.
Best language ever. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
But it takes a
everybody
lot
thinks
of
that
time.
about their own. Absolutely, absolutely. And to your point, the second time that I lived there for a couple more years was teaching, doing curriculum development and things at a high school there, and it just is, you know, even for me with the Japanese that I had and was learning as I was there, it almost doesn't matter how fluent you become. There's this inherent wish that you could almost take a post-it note and put it on your forehead that says, "Just so you know, in my language, I sound smart." And because it's so frustrating to not to know that there if it were in a different language, you could articulate your thoughts with so much more nuance, with so much more depth of feeling, with so much more precision and accuracy, and to know that you sound like a, you know, an 8-year-old when you're otherwise trying, or to feel at least, even if you are much more fluent than that, but to feel like you sound like an 8-year-old when you're trying to articulate your thoughts in the second or third language, it is a truly humbling experience. I speak from a lot of firsthand experience in various languages and countries for that matter.
Heck yeah, indeed. And the thing is, that ain't even your second language. Here you got what, one or two more under your belt?
Spanish was my second language. Japanese is my third. I have spent the last few years working on my Italian, and I've played with a bunch of others from American Sign Language to a little Arabic, a little Chinese Mandarin, a little bit of this and that here and there, depending on where I was traveling. I was just in Denmark over the summer for work, so I just, you know, took maybe 4 or 5 months to learn a little bit of Danish. Not that I got able to do absolutely anything functionally useful, but it was still a good experience to just understand bits and pieces about the language. I mean, they're all practically fully bilingual in English and Danish, so I didn't need it. Thank goodness, I was not required to rely on my Danish while there. But I did have great appreciation for how incredibly bilingual everybody there was. So it's amazing. We assume people do that, but not everyone does it to the degree that they did. But yes, I've always loved languages. It's always been a driving force. It's always been a fascination, and it's fun. And it just allows you access to so many more circles of people and culture and connection and experience when you have, you know, just a little peek into the window of how others communicate in a different language. So I was very grateful for that and just love it.
Sweet. I love it indeed too. That's right, folks. That's right indeed. So when it comes to pastries, Laura's got you covered. But if they ask you to disarm a bomb, don't do it. That's right indeed. Don't do it.
Yeah, no, not in any language. That nope. Detonate, yes. Disarm, no.
That's right indeed. Pastries, yes. Bomb, no.
Sounds good. I will take pastries over bombs any day.
In this case, the Danish.
Yeah. Well, it was named for that for their pastries. That's true. That is where it comes from.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, so basically a whole wonderful rainbow of languages. So how has that allowed you to become an even more proficient speaker of the English language enough to where it's like, oh, the good old publisher died thing as a professor. You ended up doing it anyway with your
Yeah.
magical book.
Well, it's funny. The book, my book, Speaking to Influence, is the first main book that I wrote for a normal audience, for a regular audience, as opposed to an academic publication. You know, I've written and published a number of other books in the past that are research based and that are, you know, grad students and other academics will read them, but nobody else would pick them up just as a quick professional development opportunity. So when I wrote this one, it was the first book that I ever wrote that wasn't full of citations and references and works cited lists and all those kinds of things. And truthfully, it felt a little dirty, but it was kind of fun to not have to follow all those standards.
Heck yeah, indeed. 'Cause that's the beautiful thing. It's like when it's like good old grade school and college. It's like you're trained to write a certain way, but it's like in the world where folks have low attention spans, especially nowadays. It's like, nah, it can't be writing the same exact way. You gotta write like you're writing a letter to a
Yes.
friend as opposed to a bunch of fluff in the paper. Well, depending on the
Yes.
level where you
Well,
are.
and it's so important what you just mentioned because that was one of my biggest challenges shifting from academia to corporate life and consulting because I had spent the better part of a decade of my life learning how to write in the style of the academic researcher. And that was necessary to be accepted, to be viewed as someone who was ready, who could do the kind of work that they did in those spaces. And look, there's nothing right or wrong with it either way. It's just that was the language of that community. So I had to learn it. And then once I decided to exit and shift into the business world, they looked at me and said, "What language are you speaking?" And I had to actively work to undo everything that I had just spent a decade trying to beat into my skull. Now I had to beat it back out again and learn to speak and write in a much simpler, and I don't mean simplistic. I'm not talking about dumbing it down, but just why use a $100 word when a quarter will do? And it's just make it clear, make it simple, make it useful, and move on. And that's just not the style of academia. So learning to speak that language and of course then learning to coach and train others in how to do it more effectively has become what I do for a living, ironically.
Sweet, that's what I'm talking about indeed. So there you go, the other language under her belt that she had to put in the wonderful suitcase known as academic language, academia. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Some would call her my hero academia in this case. So with all that wonderful knowledge and you're able to put this magical book together, what helped you to finally drill down and figure out, you know what? I'm gonna help folks to find their leadership voice and master like a black belt martial arts. Like what helped you to figure out and finally drill down to that point where it's like, all right, this is gonna be my one major thing. This is what I'm gonna use to help others to amp up with their lives.
It really was a matter of after a number of years of training and coaching and getting asked to speak on these various topics. I had written a number of articles, I had given keynote speeches, I had done workshops and trainings on these topics, and so many people were saying, I wish I could have more information about this beyond the workshop, beyond the keynote we heard you speak, beyond this and that. But how can we get something if the company isn't going to pay for me or for everybody to get lots of long-term coaching around it, how can we continue to develop these skills and turn this knowledge into active skill? And I thought, well, the easiest way to do that really is to just consolidate it all and make a book that people can then take with them and flip. And it's all my best stuff, but it is condensed into something you can put in your pocket, in your bag, or on your Kindle or your Audible device. And that was really important to make it something that was accessible to everybody, that was full of stories and examples, not just lessons with theoretical descriptions and rules of thumb of sorts, but application that was visible. The end of every chapter has activities and exercises you can do that build from one chapter to the next. So it's really as if I were there with you, walking you through these various stages of development, but I'm teaching you how to do it for yourself so that it is a completely plug and play self-access learning opportunity that really introduces this reality to the world, because the people who were coming to me asking for help were those who got stuck, who felt like their careers were hitting what I call linguistic glass ceilings, or where they were frustrated because their voices weren't heard, their message wasn't received as intended, they weren't getting the buy-in, they weren't getting the yeses that they want. So that was really the intention, is to help people do exactly that.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about indeed. I'm talking about indeed. 'Cause yeah, definitely, definitely indeed. Cause hey, cause a lot of folks, especially which is kind of like the in thing now, is to kind of be an introvert and be wearing it as a badge of honor without realizing, like, hey, that's just the way you conserve your energy. That doesn't mean you have to be a turtle all the time. It's like, hey, you can command the room here. You have executive presence within you. You just have to train yourself to tap into it.
Yes, yes. And it's interesting that you mentioned a few of those topics because number one, I know plenty of introverts who are fabulous public speakers, who are very happy to share their ideas with others. Introvert is not a get out of jail free card to avoid hearing your voice, nor is it just a more academic sounding vocabulary word as a synonym for shy. They're not the same thing. To your point, introversion means a lot of things. It may or may not mean shy. It may or may not mean that you love parties, but it really is really about where you get energy and what expends energy for you and how you process your information of sorts. So I'm so glad to hear you talk about that. And that is part of what we discuss. Part of what I've included in the book is how to get clear on some of these things and find your voice and find your power. So lots of great introverts out there who are on stages and microphones, all those kinds of great things. So no excuses.
That's right indeed. No excuses. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. The ducks got camouflage on for a reason. That's right indeed. We'll take you to vocal leadership boot camp, dang gummit. That's right indeed. She's gonna get you to shape. That's right indeed. Gonna look that crowd in the eye and be like, you are friggin' awesome. And I'm awesome too. That's right indeed. Don't be scared.
Nope. No fear, no fear. The only weapon we use in training and coaching, I tell my clients, nobody escapes the video camera. That's the only thing we shoot.
Pew pew.
Yeah, we got it. We do lots of videos in all training and coaching. We do, and that's part of the exercises that are in the book is about video recording yourself and then analyzing. And I teach you in the book what various lenses are that you can use to listen to and watch yourself on video to see what you're doing that is building the brand, the reputation, the effectiveness, having the impact that you want. And frankly, identify much more objectively what you're doing that's getting in your own way. Because we think we're clear and concise, and then we don't hear the yeses we want to hear. And we can't understand why. Then we watch ourselves on video and we go, oh, that sounded better in my head. Gee, maybe that wasn't as effective as I thought. I didn't realize I did this, said that, meant to do this, stumbled over that. So the video camera is like your best friend with no filter. It's going to tell you exactly what you did and said, exactly how you looked while you were doing it, for better and for worse. And then once you're clear on what's not working for you, we can make those adjustments, still being authentic, still being you, but in a way that's going to get you much better results. That's the key.
Woohoo! Alicia is proud. That's the key right there, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. And that's a major way folks communicate nowadays. Like, yeah, the curse, the good old pandemic forcing everybody to communicate virtually. Then it's like, all right, cool. Now we're finally back to being humans again, and we get to human all over the place. But the problem is, hey, there's still some folks who are still going to be on camera, especially with us being as podcast hosts and such. So,
Sure.
what are the major, I guess, the major things that just stick out to you that folks do when it comes to, I guess, their video communication that they can improve? Like any major mistakes or commonalities that you've seen that folks can easily fix?
Oh, how much time do you have? Goodness gracious. Yes. The easiest one should that absolutely everybody should start with is upgrading your microphones. It is not, and it's you of course, Tom, appreciate the quality, the importance of good sound quality. And I'm hosting my own podcast as well, regularly telling my guests, you need a better microphone. You cannot use the default internal mic that comes as part of your laptop. Because if we did, and I'm going to shift gears here, I mean, can you imagine if I showed up on this show for you, except that I use this microphone instead? How does that sound
Uh,
to you?
I'd be pissed.
And so would everybody else out there, because it absolutely undermines my brand and yours with regard to the quality of the experience that everybody else is having. And I'm going to shift back because enough of this. But we're going to, so from here now, don't you just feel like, wow, she's suddenly in the room with me? It changes
Hooray.
everything, doesn't it?
It's like hot chocolate in my hands in winter.
I'd rather it in my belly, but I'll take it in my hands, I suppose. If that's the only way to get it.
Probably should have said holding a mug of hot chocolate and what's made. That would have been
That sounds
better.
good. Yes. That sounds much more comfortable and much more appealing, much tastier for sure.
Did
So
did you that visual?
marshmallows melting all over the place there, Dom.
Ah, great callback. I knew you had it in you. Oh man. Well, speaking of podcasts, since you're a fellow host, what would you consider your top three major lessons learned from starting, growing, and running your magical show?
Oh, goodness. I think the most important one is whoever are the ideal guests, just invite them. There's nothing to lose. In the beginning, I was really hesitant to approach somebody who is a big leader. My podcast is Speaking to Influence, and the majority of my guests are senior executives from larger corporations talking about the role of leadership as an essential leadership, the role of communication as an essential leadership skill. And I started out by asking friends who are business owners, asking people who owned or were semi higher level leaders in business. I was afraid to go out and really ask CXOs of people who didn't know me to be on a show. And I thought, well, who am I? I mean, if they don't know me, if I don't have a lot of followers yet, or I'm only a few episodes in. And I finally realized, nope, stop kowtowing. Just say, here's who I am. Here's what I'm doing. Here's why I want you on the show. Let's make this a great experience. And here's what's in it for you. And be direct and be confident and talk to your prospective guests as peers, sharing the what's in it for them and why this is a perfect fit for you both. And go. And I'm always amazed and thrilled at who I can reach out to, just even on LinkedIn, people who aren't connections, people who I've found through whatever search or whose post I saw someplace and thought, wow, that person would be a great addition to my show. And then just to reach out, say, that was a great post. Love what you're doing here. Would love to have you on the show and talk about X, Y, and Z. The number of people who say yes is amazing. So it just don't hold back. I think that is the biggest one as a host. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid to invite people who you think might not say yes because you're not big enough. You're probably wrong. So that's the most important one. And number two, get a better microphone. You cannot host a show and hold your guests accountable too. Make sure your guests don't show up with a lousy mic. Sound quality is everything. So those are the two big ones.
So no triangle, no three.
Oh, lots of threes. Gosh, I can go to 30 for that matter. We can have all sorts of dimensions on it. But I think always asking for feedback at the end and debriefing the guest. That's always been something that has been really useful for me, either right at the end of the interview or after the episode goes live, to circle back with them and just discuss, because you never know. I mean, of course, it depends on the platform of your show, but for me, what my business is about, what my show is about, who my guests are, the day that the episode goes live is when I like to have a debriefing conversation with them, because that's when they get to hear the final product. That's where we get to explore and see where the conversation goes. Maybe there's introductions we can make to each other. Maybe there's ways that we can collaborate together, lots of opportunity. But I like to create relationships out of the podcasts beyond just interviews. So that's been a profound experience for me.
Woohoo! The PE folks are really looking for those profound experiences. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right,
Yes,
indeed. It ain't about sweaty socks. It's about success and more success. You love to say it. You love to say it.
I would agree. No sweaty socks necessary. I don't even want to know what's on your feet.
That's right, indeed. Because feet are neat, but they're not that neat.
Not if they're sweaty.
That's right, indeed. All the Molly go round. And so many important points, especially that first one, Dig is so right. It's like, it's because sometimes it's like, oh yeah, they're probably looking for an opportunity to promote their book, their business, or something, man. They're just looking for that conversation. Hey, especially when folks get the invite, it's like, all right, cool, something's working. I'm still relevant here.
Yep.
The kids aren't mad at me. It's like, all right, cool. Folks
Yeah.
actually want to talk to me. It's freaking amazing and so true. Can't it? It's been quite a few times where it's like I read a book from a future guest of the show. It's like I read a book. It's like, oh, it's freaking good. And it's like, ah, darn, I'm 3 months ahead on schedule. Don't want to like invite to a show with like 3 months ahead of people. And I know where the year later their group pitches them as a guest. I'm like, oh shit, I read the book last year. Yeah, bring him on. Yeah, this would be
Yeah.
freaking great. So yeah, yes, indeed, because we're all human, y'all. We're all human indeed. So my
Yes.
goodness, since you've been on so many interviews on both sides of the microphone, is there a question that you wish that folks would ask you more often when you're on the guest side of the game?
Know that I can say that there's one that people should ask more often. I actually enjoy the opposite end of that, which is where shows are always asking new questions because then I feel like I'm contributing new value and sharing new stories. It gets more interesting for me, more interesting for the guests. I love when people ask a question and I go, "Oh, that's interesting. I've never thought about that before," or no one's ever asked me that before. And it's fun to see what kinds of shows I get invited to be on or because they're not always ones that I would have expected. So for example, there was a show that I was on called The Savvy Dentist. Like not one that you would necessarily think is exactly in my wheelhouse, except that it was all about the role not well, it was all about the show was all about running the business of dental practices, not about practicing dentistry per se. So, in running that business, business leadership, business development, communication, both for your staff, for your peers, for bedside slash chairside manner with patients, all of that communication is relevant. So that's why they invited me to be on that show. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Yeah, let's talk about it in that context. So that was a fun and unique and different experience for me. Those are my favorite.
Ah, that's right, indeed. I remember that podcast, indeed. If I'm not mistaken, I forgot the guy's name, but I think he's a doctor too out in Australia, right?
Uh, I have to look up where he is. I'm not really sure, but I can find out where that is. That's a great question. But it was really interesting. I thought he was American, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I could be wrong too. Maybe it's another podcast with the same name because I think I know which one you're on because I was
It was
asked
a
on a
little
similar
while ago.
podcast. Like,
That was a little
okay.
while ago, but it's definitely the biggest stretch I think of a title as far as a show that you wouldn't have guessed in like the top 3 that I would have ever been on.
But hey, fits the brand. It's like, hey, vocal
Yes,
impact. It's like, hey, make sure the teeth are good.
that's good too. That's good too. As long as it's value.
That's right, indeed. All the good value, indeed. The great value, the phenomenal value, indeed. So, since you're an entrepreneur too, what would you consider your biggest setback then in business that actually became your biggest success?
Biggest setback to biggest success. See, there's a great question. I think there's a couple of things. And one that's directly relevant to an earlier question that I realized I sort of half answered, which was why a book originally. And one of the setbacks was that I am a speaker and I wanted to be on more stages. And at one point, I realized I didn't have a book. And to be on the larger stages, they won't even invite or consider a speaker. A part of the application is what is the title of your book? And if you don't have one, they immediately dismiss you because they want to make sure that you have something that they can sell with a book vendor on the expo floor at the conferences. So if you don't have anything to promote, well, then they're going to give the stage spot to somebody else. So that was a good little kick in the pants to say, you've been thinking about this for a long time. Now get off your butt and do it right. Take all those stories, take all those presentations, take all those videos you've made, and somehow make a make that out of it, make a book out of it. So that was the big shift to creating that book, and that has definitely been a really valuable success pivot point for me. And I think the other big challenge, and I'm so excited that for the timing of this particular podcast at the start of the new year now, because we have just undergone a rebrand. And for the last 10 years, my company was Vocal Impact Productions, and I had launched it or with that brand, because as a linguist, I'm a cognitive linguist by background, and voice, speech, pronunciation is a big part of my academic background and training. And the frustrations that I was hearing was that people, women in particular, were not feeling like their voices were heard, that their message was received. They wanted that space. So I thought, well, okay, let's create something where we can help people have a more of an impact by finding their voice. So vocal impact seemed like a great way to sum all that up. And it was good for a while, but over time I realized that people were generalizing what I do and saying, "Oh, you should meet Laura. She's a voice coach." And then that was creating trouble because people would assume, "Oh, are you a singer? Are you an acting coach? Are you, something more along those lines?" And no, that's not it at all. I couldn't teach you to sing or act if I wanted to. So it's the opposite. And I think, and Dom, tell me if this speaks to you, but the notion of authenticity is so important nowadays. And it's such a hot topic and such a point of contention and frustration for many who feel like they don't know how to be successful and authentic at the same time, that if they thought I was going to teach them to act, they would go headlong in the other direction. So it was a deterrent for people who otherwise needed my help, who I could have helped, who I wanted to help, but they were under the impression that I would teach them something that they didn't want, how to act instead of how to be authentic and effective. So I thought, okay, this needs to go. And so we worked with a branding agency and talked with others. And thus we've redirected now. And it's just like along the lines of Brene Brown and Simon Sinek. I'm the brand. So from a business perspective, so it's just Laura Sicola Inc. That is officially the new company. Vocal Impact has gone by the wayside. Although if you do go to Vocal Impact Productions, it'll redirect you to the new website, which is just laurasicola.com.
Sweet. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. The cow has to get another brand now. That's right indeed. That's right indeed.
Yes.
No more vocal impact, buddy. We got some more heat for you, buddy. Laura
We're still
Sicola
going to
Inc.
work with you on that voice, and we still want you to have an impact. But yes, it's through Laura Sicola Inc., or at
That's
least
right.
laurasicola.com.
That's right indeed. So maybe she's gonna put pen to paper for a new book, and she's gonna have an alias, Lisa Sicola, with a smooth jazz album collaborated with good old Boney James. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. She's gonna be singing. She's gonna take that karaoke experience and put it to real action, baby. That's right
Uh,
indeed.
that one, I think we'll probably spare the audience from. We want people to come back, so we're not going to inflict karaoke on anybody who hasn't at least had a couple of sips of something more interesting that I sound better than I otherwise would.
Oh, they will be back. They will be back. But hey, that's freaking awesome, though. And that's the beauty of business after a while, especially. Congrats on basically 10 years. Well, actually, no, wait, 15 years altogether, right? So,
15,
shoot.
yes. I'd launched a slightly different business, also in the communication space, but with a slightly different avatar, slightly different focus. Right upon leaving academia back in 2000, well, before I left academia, really, I was still teaching part time. But back in 2008 was when I first hung out my shingle. And then it was 2013 when I did that rebrand as Vocal Impact Productions. And now it's time for round three, 10 years later after that.
Sweet. That's right, indeed. It'll be Laura and full regalia, y'all. That's right, indeed. The cape is on, y'all. That's right, indeed. Super Laura's coming to town. That's right, indeed. Her voice will be in your ears near you, even though they kind of already are.
I was going to, can't escape it at this point. If you're this far in, we're already there.
That's right, indeed. Well, speaking of your fabulous book, Speaking to Influence, Mastering Your Leadership Voice. If that book were a food, what would it be and why?
Oh, goodness. And you're speaking to a foodie at heart and at palate. So trying to narrow that one down, that is tough. I am going to say that, it's an ice cream bar because there are so many flavors that you have to choose from and so many different toppings, excuse me. And the real goal is to figure out exactly what flavor you want, what taste you're looking for, what experience you want to have and what experience you want to give to your listeners who are going to be tasting your message, and then figuring out what is the perfect combination of ice cream and toppings and sprinkles and anything else that you need to create that flavor and have them say, yes, I want some more. That's the goal. So it's teaching you how to create the perfect ice cream sundae for your audience.
Ah,
How's that?
one of the best now just responses to that question. Wow, that's right indeed. We want to taste your message. That's right indeed. So you heard that right, folks. When you're hiring Dr. Laura, you're getting metaphorical ice cream, y'all. Who doesn't love ice cream unless they're lactose? That's right indeed. That's right indeed.
Well, they have
But
lactose free ice cream nowadays, even dairy free. So no excuses.
see, there you go. That's right indeed. Derriere has a new meaning, y'all. That's right indeed. All the cows and the manure, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Without the manure. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So you're
And no
basically getting.
manure in the ice cream. That's not a good combination. Let's stay away from that one.
I wasn't even gonna go that deep with it, but hey, I like it. All right, cool. That's right indeed. I love deep thinkers. That's right indeed. That gives my puns new layers. We're bringing in one of them caterpillar diggers here. That's right indeed. Digging deep into the earth. Gonna run a joke so far into the ground, we'll be going to China like they would say to the kids back in the day if they would
Right.
dig too far. Oh man. Well, before any more dirt appears from that pun, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, unquestioningly and I'm trying to remember who it was that I heard say it. It might have been, oh gosh, maybe Tony Robbins or Jack Canfield, one of the inspirational speakers who said, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So, whatever you're afraid to try, whatever you're afraid to fail at or to embarrass yourself or don't want to make a mistake or don't want to do this or do that, just do it. Hold your nose and jump. Prepare, do what you need to do, but otherwise don't hold yourself back because that is keeping you from everything that you want to have, both personally and professionally. Everything you want is just on the other side of fear. So go for it.
Oh, go for it indeed, y'all. Just go for it. Even if you have to buy 5 Connect 4 boards. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Go for it. That's right indeed. That's right
That's quite the
indeed.
image too.
Yes, indeed. Pull out your glove club if you have to. That's right, indeed. Put on a tiger suit. That's right, indeed. That's right. Avoid all the crowns too. Don't put a crown while you're wearing the tiger suit, y'all. Don't want to be the Tiger King around here. That's right, indeed. Just go for it. That's right, indeed. Just go for it. That's right, indeed. Well, folks have only heard probably, I don't know, 0.001% of what the good doctor has to offer. And for folks who need to dive into the other 99.9% of what you have to offer, what's the best way for folks to do so, Dr. Laura?
You can certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn. I look forward to connecting with everybody. If you do, please, I implore you, tell us or tell me that you heard us here on Dom's incredible show. That's how I know we can connect, that this is not just a random call of some sort. I want to make sure that all of my connections are meaningful, and that's great. And then I get to tell Dom that everybody was listening to his show too, and I'm sure that'll make him happy as well. You can also, of course, go to see the wider range of services and opportunities at laurasicola.com. And of course, check out the podcast as well at speakingtoinfluence.com. We invite everybody to follow, of course, follow Dom's first.
Woohoo! We heard that right, folks. We're going to put a link to all of Dr. Laura's goodies in the show notes. That way you can keep up with all the stuff that she's doing so you can cop some copies of her magical books. And the good news is it's in 3 forms: paperback, ebook, and audio. And the good news is she's one of my favorite people because she read her book too. So you're going to be in for a double treat that's good enough to eat 5 times over. You're going to get a box of 12 metaphorical ice cream bars, all because she did that. And keep up and subscribe to her show too, because she's cranking out great magical content, y'all. That's right, indeed. Magical content, indeed. You're going to feel like you got 8-pack leadership influence abs. That's right, indeed. You'll have folks under the influence of good stuff. Good
That's
stuff,
what we
indeed.
want. That's what we want. We want them to have influence too.
Heck yeah, indeed. That's right, indeed. So if you wear a penguin suit while holding Laura's book, you heard it here first, y'all. That's right, indeed. Send her the photo. It'll make for great branding material. That's right, indeed.
That would be interesting. I don't think anyone to date has ever sent me a picture of them in a penguin suit holding my book. I've had a number of people holding the book, not in a penguin or a tiger suit for that matter. So, feel free to send those. Why not?
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. But before the camel appears and joins the party, any parting words before we close up shop, Dr. Laura?
Oh, this has just been a lot of fun. Thank you for the opportunity for the conversation, Dom, and just to everybody else out there, no matter what your position, no matter who you're speaking to personally or professionally, there are ways that you can still be 100% authentically you while adjusting your approach just enough so that you can more effectively get through to them, have them hear both your content and your intent of whatever you're sharing and get that yes. Being able, most importantly, to master the three C's, command the room, connect with the audience, and close the deal. You all have it in your power.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.